The Multipod podcast brings multipotentialites together to discover common interests, projects, and offers in a spirit of community and collaboration. Join me, Ted Craig, as I feature guests from around the world here to share their stories and find meaningful connections. Your call to action? Reach out to them after this episode and say hello. If you are new to multipotentiality, well, you're not alone, but you're in the right place. Now, you may have noticed if you've watched a few episodes, gone back and listened to the back catalog. I mean, most of our guests here on the show, virtually all of them, are already familiar with multipotentiality. They've been in there, they've explored it, they've done the research, they may have been in the puttyverse, and, that's often what brought them to this podcast. But as we kind of enter a new era and expand the reach and reach out to people from other communities and other places, well, a lot of that comes back to introducing them to the concept and getting the chance to explain it, kind of answer their questions, and that's what we're going to do today. So my guests today are Patty Calbay and Steve Pope. They are a couple who are currently house-sitting their way around the United States for an indeterminate amount of time. Steve originally hails from Erie, Pennsylvania, Patty from California. And they found each other a few years ago and evolved into this wonderful couple. They're quite well known for their relationships to the point that they now coach other couples on relationships and really making the most of their relationship of being a couples, especially for the couples who've been together for a long time. They say 5+ years type thing, and they really love helping people rediscover the excitement and the connection and the things that kind of brought them together in the first place, which is great. We're going to chat lots about what they do and how they help people. And, sure, if you're in a relationship, that will speak to you, but even if not, I think it's really interesting just learning about the psychology of that, of how couples, evolve over time, and then if there's kids involved, of course, too, and families and busy lives and all of that. But how does it relate back to multipotentiality, which is what we're here for? Well, this comes back to, I said to them, do they want to come on the show? Are they interested? But are you familiar with multipotentiality? As it turns out, well, they kind of were. They were aware of the feeling of it, but maybe not so much the term. So we're going to explore that here today in terms of what it means and how it has applied to them, kind of in retrospect, because, they've both pursued professional careers and spent lots of time, commitment, studies, and the whole deal. But the question is, were they doing things that they wanted to do, or how often were they doing things they felt that they should be doing? And as we hear in our conversation, that old should word is one that is quite triggering for multipotentialites. We really recoil from that because we don't want to be doing things that we're told that we should do. You tell me I should be doing something? Well, I don't think so. I'm going to go and do the opposite. So we get to hear their experience, but it's a bit of a live kind of in real time exploration with people who are new-ish to the concept, and you'll get to hear how they respond and react to it. So it's fun, and I really want to do more of that here on the Multipod as we go forward and finding some people in different stages, of learning about what this concept is. So it's a fun conversation. There's lots going on in their lives. There's lots of ways you can contribute and reach out to them. We'll have all the links, of course, and I'll be back at the end. We'll summarize to really point you in the right direction because we're going to need your help. If you're listening to this when this episode comes out, we are going to need your help. There is a contest happening, so get ready to vote. But anyway, straight to the episode. You'll learn all about it, and I'll come back and see you here at the end. All right, this is the Multipod. Welcome back, everybody who's listening and everybody who's watching. I'm very pleased to be joined by my good friends, Steve and Patty. How are you guys doing?
Very well.
Doing great.
Great to have you here. So this should be an interesting episode because, people who've been listening to the show for 7+ years, they would know that most, if virtually all of our guests kind of have a background with multipotentiality, and they've explored it and they've gone through that process, and they've probably joined the Puttyverse, which the podcast was born out of, and they've kind of been through that process to the point where they get to the podcast and it's like they know what it is and they've identified. But I'm really interested in exploring this angle of bringing guests here who are new to the concept. And I think it's fair to say that that's the case with both of you. So we're going to have an interesting conversation about essentially learning about multipotentiality. So tell, if you want, tell the listeners here and the viewers what you know about multipotentiality so far. I don't know, Patty, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so the very slight knowledge that I do know about it, there's no like one true calling of putting yourself in a specific fashion or a specific category, and that's who you are. That's what's defining you. You take in different hobbies, interests, experiences, and you put that together and combine it into something that speaks to you, something that is a multi-calling. There's no right or wrong way to like be. It's just you take in several aspects of yourself and several interests and combining it into what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Steve, how do you react to it? Yeah.
I'm not quite an elegant. I appreciate Ted's beautiful way to say that we don't know as much as this about most people on the podcast, but I like it because when I heard the concept, which I think originally was through you a few months ago at Camp Indy, an event we attended together, it was the idea of doing many different things to kind of find what your calling is, because we take these classes and we go to these seminars and we learn a little bit about a topic, but we don't always know exactly where it's going to lead us to. So we can't just guess the first thing when we're out of school. We go to college, we're going to try this thing and we hope it sticks. And if it doesn't, then you're either locked into this idea because you've already invested some time in it. It's the kind of people who enjoy multipotentiality are people who are willing to take a step back and think, does this serve me? Is this the direction I want to continue going in long term? They're like us, willing to make pivots, willing to change career paths completely, willing to take risks, and willing to enjoy the ride and not be dedicated to having to get it right the first time, the second time, or whatever iteration you're on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah, enjoying the journey, which is still, is tricky. It's like, you might say the easy path is to kind of choose something and stick with it, the safer path. But the next question in all this then is, well, so what's your experience in that? And especially in the sense, I mean, a lot of this comes back to kind of career and job and all that. It's not just about that, but a lot of it comes back to, well, what do we want to do with our lives and our time, make a living and, be maybe known for something. So the next question is, well, what's your experience with having to choose a thing as you're probably coming out of high school and, going to college or whatever. And it's like, well, did you face pressure to have to choose a thing? Did you know there was a thing? Did you have no idea? Like, that's where you get into the heart of this. So like, Steve, what was your journey with that as you came out of high school?
So I went to school and I was not good at much originally. I was a very high energy kid. I got bored easily. Math came naturally to me, so it didn't excite me because I just got it, and everything else was really difficult. Comprehension, and it was just my attention span was that of a goldfish. I needed stuff to keep me entertained, so it was very difficult to find that. So I found that in math, and then through that, I found engineering, which was numbers on steroids with applications of real world implication. So that was exciting. And in doing that, the good thing about college to me, one of the best things is that you take all these gen eds that have no relation to your major. So if I'm working with engineering, I'm in labs for 3-4 hours a day, exhausted. My mind is getting completely worn out. That's where I found fitness. I started working out. I'm like, okay, this is exhausting in a different way. So I feel exhausted mentally, but I have so much energy to work out. To me, it didn't make sense until I realized it was using a completely different part of me. There was the physical part, and I could work that out. And then the mental part would follow, and I would have reserved tanks of energy for different things that I would focus on, which leads into what you were saying about it isn't always about work. And that's where I found martial arts, which was another physical outlet. I found improv classes, which was another mental outlet that wasn't quite as organized as a schooling is. It was more something I enjoyed. And I've always been addicted to finding the new thing. I think that stems from, not to go too deep in the weeds, but I got a field service job for engineering and I started traveling around, and I got that at 25. after college. And I had never learned about it. I grew up in a poor area, so nobody traveled. So when I found out about travel, I was mad at my parents, my teachers. I couldn't believe nobody told me about this awesome thing like traveling. So for me, 25 years old, I found this brand new thing I'd never done before, the coolest thing ever. So I keep chasing that. Like maybe there's something tomorrow at 36 I do for the first time, and I realize this is a staple of my life I want to implement. So I never stop with the curiosity of there might be another travel somewhere in life that I just haven't discovered yet.
Mm. Yeah, we love talking about travel on this show because it's it's a great example of just variety and challenge and new experiences and the things you learn right along the way. And engineering too, actually, now I think about it, I feel we've had a lot of engineers of various types because that's a type of career where there's all kinds of varieties, different types of engineers and different projects. And, a big theme, a big part of multi-potentiality often is that we don't want to do the same thing for too long. And we often gravitate towards jobs and projects that have an ending. So think of engineering, and there's lots of kinds of engineering, but if you're, what kind of engineering did you study? Like, is it, structural engineering or something completely different?
Electrical and computer is what I studied.
Electrical.
And then I've bounced around to mechanical and all kinds of things because like you said, multi-potentiality.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like imagine, you're working on an electrical engineering project that has a beginning and an end. Now, some people would say like, well, what am I going to do next? Like that was my job. That was the thing. I don't know what to do next. Usually for multi-potentialites, right, we're like, oh, thank God it's done. I enjoyed it, but I'm glad it's done because now I can go and do something else. There's the whole variety and the lack of, or the pushback against kind of specialization too much. Okay. So Patty, what's your story?
Yeah, in high school, I was so indecisive. Every year when we met with an academic counselor, it was a different major that I wanted to pursue every year until I landed in psychology. So freshman year, I remember I wanted to be an architect. Sophomore year, I wanted to do this whole combination of marine biology, but also fashion design. Year 3 was medical because my parents were getting to my head. And then year 4 was psychology because like, hey, I'm a good listener. I like understanding human behavior of people, so I pursued that. And in college, I went to a research-based campus where they encourage students to pursue the doctoral route. So I was already ingrained in my mind is pursue the doctoral route, the research route. This is what you should want. And I started those steps, and I realized in the middle of applying, like, this is not me. I want to do something more applied. So I took a year off, and I became an intern counselor to have the more practical experience. And then I got my master's in marriage and family therapy a year after I graduated because I needed that time to really know what I wanted as far as my major. We had the route of research, PhD, doing a lot of papers, being a professor, and then being a therapist. And I chose the therapist route because I have that creative freedom to be the therapist that I want to be, understand people, use my expertise, use my experiences to help others. And in incorporating that, I work with kids initially, so having the creative flow of doing artsy interventions during the class as it relates to mental health to make it more understandable and digestible for someone that young who doesn't understand the concept of mental health. And then as I got into the field, I was a therapist for 15 years. And then once again, it's where do I go next? People are telling me, go get a promotion, become a supervisor. I became a supervisor for the last 5 years because I was told that's what I should do. I've been in this field for so long, climb up the corporate ladder. And then I did that. I'm like, okay, well, I like the title, but I didn't have to work. And so in the last couple of years since Steve and I have been talking about this is what really is our calling, what helps us feel fulfilled and not just fills our wallets with the financial stability, the salary, the consistency, and knowing that you're going to have a paycheck. That's comforting, but also knowing that there is sacrifice in not enjoying it, not feeling fulfilled. Going to work, dreading it. It's such a routine that we create newness and novelty that at some point I just said, you know what, this is not for me. This is a good chapter to end on. Go back to seeing clients and going to private practice. So there is flexibility with my time, working with adults, using my creative juices with my practice, and also incorporating that into our business so that it feels rewarding. It feels like it's not work. It's fun. We get to have conversations about it. We take our own experiences into it and put our heart into it. And that's where we feel most alive and we thrive in this aspect of our work because we have the freedom to call the shots, essentially.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's it. I can certainly resonate with that because I'm self-employed and podcasting is another thing with lots of variety. But yeah, just being able to call the shots. I mean, you're kind of out there on your own and responsible for everything. You've got to find the work and build the business and test things out, figure it out. But and it's a long journey, and we'll chat about that, I'm sure. But yeah, it's still very rewarding as you see things just slowly starting to click into place and to realize that you can do this and that we can therefore live the life we want. You brought up one of the key words that we push back against, which is should, that people just inherently resist to, well, you should do this, or shouldn't you be doing that, And if that's something that makes you recoil, it's a good sign that you're a multi-potentialite, I think.
That's good to know. Appreciate the information.
Yeah.
I found at 3 years, even the most exciting thing to me would just get boring. It didn't change much. It was my acceptance of it being how it should be. And then now you jump to the next step and that didn't resonate with me. So I would just bounce around something close until I finally, born and raised in Pennsylvania, and I got a job offer and they told me this was going to be contingent upon you moving to California. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I'm like, is that crazy? And then everything shifted once it became a real possibility. And then I found myself choosing between a couple of jobs and I was like, oh, wow, I can do whatever I want. And everyone I knew was going the standard route, getting the job, locking in, doing everything they could not to get fired, not because they wanted the job, but they didn't want to have to restart.
Of course.
And I couldn't connect because I would get so excited at the thought of restarting a job search all over again. Everyone was terrified of it. I'm like, I don't get it. This is a roller coaster. I want to hop on and start flying. And everyone else was so scared. So I guess I knew something was different in me compared to my colleagues who were very comfortable in trying to find a job that they could do just enough to keep rather than do so much to change.
Yeah, it's interesting. Huh. And I feel like psychology is one of those areas where, it takes time, a lot of study, and, a lot of people do their masters and doctorates and so on. So it's a big commitment.
I was struggling with the sense of, I have my degree, I have my license, I want to keep this up. I have student loans, so I want to pay that off or at least get it forgiven, which I did. So I had that sacrifice of staying at a job in a specific employment so that I can get my student loans forgiven. So that was where I felt like I had not really much of control of where I wanted to be because I knew my decision at the end was get these loans forgiven. And talking to more people and getting introduced to the location indie community, knowing that there is that flexibility. There are people who have these jobs for a long time. And then, after a few years or decades into a job, they realize they want to go to the next path. And it's not necessarily adjacent to where they were. They could be completely different. And there was potential in that. So when Steve brought me to Camp India and we were introduced to more people, that's where I got the validation of you can do this regardless of where you're at in life. You have permission to say yes to yourself and not have to adhere to societal expectations. You don't have to please other people or say like, okay, well, I'm at this level of my career and I'm hitting it big because I have this big CEO or corporate title. That's great, but not for me. Not someone like me, because I want to find where I feel like I'm not working in a way. So
the dream.
That's the dream.
Well, it's amazing to recognize that, and even more amazing to then do something about it. So I'm really glad that you guys have done that. It's exciting. So let's talk about your business. What do you? How do you help people?
We have a relationship coaching business, and it primarily focuses on couples that have been together somewhere in like the 5 to 10 year range, plus or minus a few. And it's with Patty's background in being a therapist and my background in being an engineer, I have a unique skill set of problem solving based with logic. And she essentially solves problems in the mind based with emotion. So when we combine those two things, it is really like a yin and a yang thing. So we get to use everything that we wanted to use in our original careers: creativity, fun, playfulness. And we take couples, right? Currently we have a 6-week program, and we take them through kind of rediscovering themselves. And in these dates that we curate for them, they get to reignite that excitement that you had at the beginning of a relationship. But as time goes on, trying to find new things to do together, it's just difficult. You've done a bunch of stuff. You've had all the conversation. So you have to be truly intentional and put a lot of effort forth if you're going to keep that kind of playful energy, which Patty and I have been able to keep for a long time. And we kind of thought it came naturally, and we learned that it was something kind of special. And then even us, with people would see, they'd probably be shocked to hear that we had our times when things kind of dipped, and we kind of start letting the thoughts of, oh, this is what's supposed to happen. You should get used to dates being infrequent and just dinner and a movie. Yeah. Throwing on the Netflix and things getting a little boring. And then the engineer in me came out, no, this is a problem. Let me solve it like all my other problems. I don't want to just accept this. So we had the hard conversations and we worked through it. And in doing that, we realized that we could kind of create an expedited path for other couples to be able to do this as well, because it does take a lot of work and time. But if we can kind of make that easier by making this insane matrix of, should we go on this crazy date? Should we go to one of those restaurants where you can't see the food and eat it? Should we do this? And then we went on one really expensive date that was fun, but we realized we could put a program together for about that cost, and we can do a dozen different exciting things with that. And instead of it being a one-off that interrupts the pattern, you could completely change how you think about everyday life into a dating mindset with just a mind shift adjustment. And you can turn basic things like going to get groceries or doing the laundry into an exciting date night.
Yeah, that's amazing. What kind of reaction then have you had from people, whether they've been in your program or just hearing about the idea?
We had a couple that we completed the program with a month ago, and they were able to just like share the excitement of rediscovering the joy in their relationship. They've been married for, I think, 10 years, been together 14, and they had acknowledged that we did have a rough patch. And after like year 5 or year 10 for them, it was going through the motions of life, and they felt like they needed something, but they didn't know exactly what. And through our program, they're like, well, I forgot that my partner did this, or he was creative in doing this, because our strategies and date ideas help bring that out. And they uncover it themselves. They're the ones that choose, okay, this is somewhat within my realm, or I'd like to try this because it's so brand new. And they incorporate that, and they realize how exciting it is, and they have more ideas and a new, like, rejuvenated sense of going on dates and being more intentional with everyday life together.
Yeah. Do you tap into then, people's interests and help them find things they want to do? Or do you kind of give them a list of, well, try this, try that, and see what you think?
More the second one. So we very much try to make it, because everyone has different interests. And we have a survey we send out beforehand, and we have an initial consulting meeting where we kind of get a bunch of information. And we've, over the course of the past probably year and a half, we've put together a dozen or so different kinds of dates. And there's really 3 big date nights throughout our program. And we've put it together so that no matter what your interest is, whether it's technical, whether it's a physical activity, whether you like watching something or doing something, you can get into it. But it's also different enough that you won't be completely comfortable, which is part of the excitement, because being comfortable is what got you to the point of feeling more like roommates than soulmates. And and it's a harsh reality. And it's something hard to even admit or understand when it's happening, because it doesn't happen one big moment, boom, this thing is happening. It's day after day. You kind of tuck in the back of your mind and ignore it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what am I supposed to do about it now? So we really try and just help get each other out of our own ways. So it gets difficult to come up with ideas sometimes. And when you see it all in front of you, like a menu, it becomes a lot more manageable, a lot more doable. And so one thing we realized early on is we gravitate towards photography because we love making memories. And when you have a picture associated with a specific date, it feels so beautiful. And you look at it and you relive that moment and you kind of get to get those good feelings, that spike in dopamine all over again. And it's an incredible feeling. And we use that to capture the moments that you go on during the dates.
So in a sense, like, because you're not with people in person, right? You can do all this virtually, but do you encourage them to take pictures then of each other, or hire a photographer or something like that?
It's teaching them essentially like how to take pictures themselves, whether they have a tripod or even the good old strategy of putting it against a water bottle or putting it up against a tree. It's more or less about the outcome. And enjoying the process together. It's being present, being intentional, putting in that extra effort. And the results will look great, but reminiscing about it, talking to them about it in the sessions to reflect back on it, that's where the heart of it is. And they recognize it wasn't perfect, but we still had a good time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that too, like the psychology of it then. So sure, there's the activities and, mixing things up and being creative, but then talking about, well, how does that make you feel? And, where do we go from there? And the emotional bond that's rebuilt or maybe a new one, So what's the experience or the reaction been like from the psychological point of view?
Yeah, it gives them a moment to pause. A lot of the times when you're given a task, you just do it and then you get to the end result. It's like from point A to point B, I want the tangible results and this is what's going to make me happy or I feel proud about it. With our program in particular, we focus on the process. We give them the idea of what the outcome could be and what it's likely going to look like. However, we do focus on, well, what was that like for you? The prep up, the setup of the date, the decision making behind it. How did you communicate with in deciding what date you want to go on? How did the execution of the date look like? Did you enjoy it? Were there any miscommunications or misunderstandings? Let's go through that and reflecting on what was the overall experience for you and what was hard, what was a challenge, but what was also reinvigorating. What's something that reminded you of those first stage feelings again? Or I remember that he was very silly and we got into our heads too much and we remembered we need to slow down. This is not about getting things right. It's about enjoying the moment and being present and enjoying the experience together as a couple. We're not trying to win. We're not trying to reach a goal. The goal is the connection and the rediscovery of each other.
Right. I guess then, is there any variation for the couples who have children? Because now you're into my world.
Yeah.
And honestly, the issue, like if my wife is here, she's upstairs somewhere with the kids, of course. We would do so much more together if we had the time, but it's like, your average day, summer's different. She's a teacher, so she's off right now and our schedule changes. But most of the year, 10 months of the year, she's at work, she comes home, the kids come home, all the regular routine. By the time they're in bed, it's like 9:00. We could do something, but we're exhausted. We have like half an hour and we fall asleep. And, her parents are close by and babysitters and stuff, but it just doesn't happen that often. We might go out for dinner twice a year. And anyway, that's a whole bigger story. And it's not just me, but any parent of how you make things happen. But I'm sure your program can apply to parents, couples with children, young children, right? But do you have to make adjustments as a result?
Yeah. So it's the good thing about having it customizable and having only, I guess technically 4 big dates throughout the program and having a bigger arsenal of dates to go through is we can personalize it. So, and that, to me, that's where the creativity comes into play and the presence, because the presence is one of the hardest equations of the date to come to find. We're so busy worrying about what did we just finish? How was yesterday? Did I do all those things? And then once you finish with that, there's present, you hit that for a second and then you're like, but what am I doing next? And what's tomorrow look like in this weekend? And I got this other thing. And so being able to slow down makes a date that would normally take a lot longer. You can pat that into a shorter period of time. And
Mm.
with finding things to do at home, which is one of our taglines, is turn the mundane into funding. So it's creating fun things out of regular tasks. One thing we've done in the past is really try to amp up dinner, because that's something everyone does every day. And it can be as quick as throwing hot dogs in with mac and cheese, which is a delightful meal, but it takes very little effort or intentionality. And
Uh-huh.
I'm as guilty if anyone is making it. But what we can do is, we have one of our dates that we've done in the past is we pick a country, which ties it back to travel. For example, we want to do Italy, and we put on some Frank Sinatra, and we got a movie going in the background with an Italian bass. And if I want to bust out my worst Italian accent, I pull that out, and we go to like Little Italy to go to their grocery store, where you get a nice nonna having all the ingredients there. You ask for a recipe from them. And then, grocery shopping, which is an everyday task that we all do, turns into you're taking a mental trip to Italy with your person. And you don't get some cool thing out of it. You're not getting a brand new iMac. You're not getting this beautiful thing. What you are getting is, you're seeing that, wow, they put so much effort into this basic thing that they could have just phoned it in and made whatever they wanted, but they decided to really put that effort into it. And that shows, I think it really helps us see each other in those moments.
Yeah, interesting. And I'm hearing you say that, and it's like we could do that with the kids too. They could be there.
And I wanted to circle back on that with some of the dates, incorporating what can we do to incorporate the kids there. If you don't have a studio, if there's, grandma and grandpa are out of town, or there's no one else and you're with them, how can we incorporate them into the date without taking away the presence between you and your partner? And having them involved too, they're active in some ways. So with where they're doing photography, what Steve had mentioned to a client that we're working with is, why not have the kids try to be the photographers? So instead of having the tripod or the camera on, kids love feeling like they're helping out, especially taking pictures and feeling like a pro. Incorporate them into that activity while the parents are still having their moment together, that the romantic pictures, the funny, silly, goofy pictures, they still have that essence of it together while having the kid doing a task that's, adjacently relevant to the date.
Yeah.
And you might inspire the next Martin Scorsese.
You never know. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, we've been encouraging the kids to take pictures and take pictures of us, especially when we're traveling. We were just in Nova Scotia for a week or so, and yeah, they've got my old iPhone, which I brought to Camp Indy there, and it's basically just a camera now. So go for it, take pictures, right? And now I can kind of see that and frame it in the bigger picture of, well, I mean, that gives Emily and I, my wife and I, the chance to be in the moment with each other, and someone else taking the picture who happens to be one of our kids, either our son or daughter, and they could both do it, see how it compares, that'd be fun. So okay, it's about being a lot more present. And another thing we can maybe wrap up a bit on this is, I don't wonder if you struggle with this, because one thing I've learned about being self-employed, small business and all that, it's really hard to switch off. I'm thinking about it 24/7, and it bugs me. I don't want to think about it all the time, but especially in the summer, maybe when things are so busy, and it's it's nice to have that flexibility and everyone else is off and we can go places or people visit and all the rest. But it's I'm constantly thinking, what's my next deadline? Do I have to get this or that done? I'm really trying to be in the moment at least a little bit. Tonight, maybe I'll do that tonight, this evening. It's a nice summer day here. I'll try to get as much done as I can here in the next couple hours. And then maybe tonight I'll just not think about work, right? And be as present as possible. A lot of this business, as we kind of step into this lifestyle and this reality, is knowing where to switch off, or just to kind of be at peace, with where you're at. And you can't do everything all at once, and you've got to be patient. And what's your experience then with that, and just kind of keeping pace with things, but not letting it take over your life?
Yeah.
It's hard.
One of the things that Steve has actually taught me is non-negotiables. When I had my full-time job plus us starting our business, it felt like it was just a whole day. And I thought, okay, I'm starting to get burned out, because I'm even thinking about it, and we're talking about it throughout the entire day that we don't have time to shut off or just to breathe and to do something that is not work, something mindless, or even enjoy eating without thinking about the next thing. So we structured our day with work days. So being on our time and having the responsibility of that, we could either work the whole day, part of the day, or most of the day. And we created a schedule for ourselves of during these work hours, we're going to be very much intentional with focusing on our business and talking about social media, talking about content, our modules. And then we take a break and continuing on with the day, however we want to design it.
That's good. Yeah. Is it hard to do that, or are you able to kind of stick to that time?
It was trial and error. So we
very much.
And there was some flashing in, like, well, I want to work on this time, but I want to break. Like, okay, well, where's the middle of that? Because there's that negotiation time of what works for both of us. Someone might be at 90%. I can do all this. The other one might be at 10%. I'm only at this capacity. I can't give my all. So there's a lot of part conversations that Steve had on earlier with even structuring our days, because we need some sort of routine as far as work and getting stuff done, rather than having a day fully dedicated to just work.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a very much a routine-based person. So when I went from having a regular job to working for myself with our business, it's okay. We go through the trials and errors. I think I'm going to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And then you realize that doesn't work out for you. And it definitely did not work out for us. So I'm a big believer in having routines. So we created a morning routine, a night routine. We have a weekly check-in, and that helps with being present, because sometimes you don't know how to get into a new mode. Like you said, I'm constantly in work mode. So maybe have one room where you never think about work. So when you walk into that room, you know that this is where I turn work off. It ends at this door or at this awning or wherever you're going. And then you try and keep that mindset, in the same sense that when you go into your bedroom, we don't like having a TV in there, because we want that to just be for sleep so we can recover for the next day. And it's the same kind of mindset with that. And we've done meditating, where we just take 5 minutes, deep breaths, whatever is rattling around up there, give it a chance to settle to the bottom, and then push it out for now. When we wake up in the morning, our default will take us right back there. And we recently started, we overhauled all that stuff, because we had a bunch of routines, and some of them were, like you said, we weren't sticking to them, or they had adjusted and we hadn't really had a conversation about, hey, this is changing. Let's like iron something down. So we changed our morning routine. We now follow a Japanese samurai morning routine, actually, with which sounds crazy, but it really works. It kind of gets your physical, your mental, your body, everything like relaxed. You do a lot of tasks that are just tasks for the sake of doing them. That way you can take control of your intentionality. You can have this strength and the ability to have all these things flying around. Tell yourself, I'm going to take a moment, and then get rid of what's not serving you and hold on to what you really need to do, and they'll narrow your focus. And we've really been working well with that. And these check-ins that we do on a weekly basis with each other, where are you feeling about the business? Where are you feeling about our relationship? How is dating versus are we getting enough done? Are you feeling fulfilled, productive? There's a bunch of different buckets we're trying to fill. And with business, sometimes it can take over everything, and we lose sight of some of the other things that are equally, if not more important.
Yeah. Well, I admire your commitment to communication. I can see through this whole conversation here today, like that. That's probably maybe the underlying secret, or success, is that you got to communicate well and make a plan to communicate. Right? Be intentional.
Yeah. And create a space so you know what you're getting into, because some of those conversations will be difficult, and some of them will be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's like, we got to talk finance. Nobody wants to do it, but we got to get these things in check. So either you can subscribe to ignorance is bliss, which sometimes I used to love and I've gotten away from, or knowledge is power. So talk about the uncomfortable thing, get it out there. Now that monkey's off your back, and you can move forward with this new information. And it really helps to clear those things out every now and then. Go through your attic.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It really does. Okay, well, let's wrap up with a couple things here. So let's get to connection. There's two things. Trying to figure out what's the best to start with. Let's start with, now there's kind of two audiences in a sense. This is going to come out mid-August. You guys are right in the middle of a contest, and we could talk about that. But the point is that if you're listening to this, 6 months or 12 months from now, which is great, thanks for coming back and listening to our episodes. But you can still, if this is long after the contest is over, you can still connect with Patty and Steve, because we're going to talk about that first. Where's your website? How do you like people to find you? Where do you send people first?
We normally route them to our Instagram and Facebook page. They can search the Love Lifters, where we have links to our landing page if they want to learn more about our program. That's where it's outlined. They can schedule a discovery call if they want to sit with us, and you can connect through direct message or email.
Okay, great. So yeah, if anyone listening, watching, if this speaks to you and you want to find out more, do you guys do like a discovery call then or something to kind of get the process started? Yeah.
Yeah. We have a discovery call.
Great. That's a great way to start, and reach out to them. Again, no matter when you may be listening and watching this, you can do that. Now, in the meantime, the contest.
Yeah.
We could go on a long time about this, but I do want to get a quick snapshot. So tell us what the contest is and how people can support you.
It is the contest for America's Favorite Couple. And this was introduced by Jack Goldblum and his wife. And they encourage a lot of couples to apply to participate and get daily votes in. And it's a long process. We realized that early on that it's daily voting through Colossal.
Yeah, and then the winner gets a cash prize, which we're getting married next year. So that's very exciting and very expensive. And then also a Spread and Variety magazine, which is super interesting and something that if you would have told me even just 2 years ago that there would be a chance to be in a magazine talking about our relationship, it would be mind blowing. So it's exciting and it's fun and it's engaging. It keeps the juices flowing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so of course, we'll put the links in. I know a lot of people watching and listening will probably be actively voting already, but we got to get as many people in here as possible. Now, this comes out August 15th. The next deadline is end of Thursday, August 21st, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So people follow the link, they go to vote. You get one free vote per day. You kind of go through, connects to your Facebook account and all that, and then you cast a vote. I've been doing this. When did this start? It's been like at least a month, hasn't it?
Yeah, about a month, and they did a bunch of rounds, so we're into the quarterfinals. I think it started with over 11,000 people, and it's down to just over 100. So
there you go. Okay, so we can't let up now by any means, but yeah, I have a feeling it's going to take as wide an audience as possible to make sure we collect all those votes. So. First things first, again, if you're listening to this, right when it comes out, those first few days, this episode, then drop everything and make sure you go and vote, because we got to get all those votes in every day. Then I guess, the best we can do is just try to keep updating people, of course, and hope they keep moving on to the next rounds, but keep the word out there. So, hey, we're excited to see where it goes, and we'll do an update at the end one way or another to share what the outcome was. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is a very exciting
deal. Cool. Well, thanks, guys, for being here. It's been fun. Always nice to chat. We've met a couple times in person. And I want to show you this. So last year, I gave Patty and Steve a ride back from Cambindi to Burlington. Remember, you were going to Burlington, Vermont?
Yeah.
Which is on my way home. So I dropped you off there, and then it was a couple hours back to where I live here in Quebec. And as I got home and I was cleaning out the car, I found under the passenger seat there was a water bottle. And here it is. And everyone watching, this is like an old plastic purple and white water bottle, like a faded bottle. It doesn't look at anything special, but for whatever reason, my kids absolutely latched onto this. Hugo's got his name on. He's got a little name tag now.
That's awesome.
He uses this for every baseball game. He plays baseball once or twice a week, and every baseball game this comes out. It's everywhere. So, and every time I see it, how can I not think of you guys? So. I'm really glad you left that under the car seat.
That's the sweetest thing ever. Thank you, Chad. That's adorable.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for being here. We'll keep in touch, and best of luck with the contest.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you much. Great job. This was fun.
Cheers. Thanks. Looking at this water bottle here, it's funny. It reminds me of Marty McNabb and Things That Matter. And this is just some kind of scratched old plastic water bottle. Who knows how old it is? But the fact that, it really has a lot of meaning to my kids. They use it all the time, right? I wonder if they're going to have like memories of that water bottle. Maybe that's like the thing that's associated with baseball, especially for my son. But then also that, as I told Steve there, every time I see the water bottle, inevitably it's going to remind me of him and Patty, and how it was great to be able to drive back to Burlington there. We had 3 or 4 hours together in the car last year, and just, have that time and get to know each other better. And it's all thanks to him leaving the water bottle here in the car that kind of maintained that connection. So this is a thing that matters. It's great. So yes, again, this is time sensitive, and if you're listening in time, hopefully the Patty and Steve will stay in the contest for as long as possible. I'm guessing it'll still go a few weeks. So if it's still on, check in. I'm sure you'll hear about it either way, but get your votes in, because every vote's going to help. And how amazing would it be for our friends here and our little groups, our community, to emerge on top of something like this. It'd be really, really neat. I'd love to see that happen for them. Of course, we'll see how far they get. Either way, it's an achievement to get this far. And now's the part, I suppose, where we get a little deeper maybe and say, hey, regardless of the outcome, it's brought a lot of us together, the people. There's a whole WhatsApp thing. We were chatting there doing our recording, and there's little WhatsApp alerts popping up with people saying, I voted, get your votes in. This stuff's happening all the time. And so it's a fun little project for all of us to contribute to and support our friends, right? And see how we can help them. So that's what the Multipod is here for. It's to help each other, it's to support each other, whatever projects you might be doing. And again, obviously, if you're listening to this many months later, in one way or the other, the contest is over, you can still absolutely reach out to Steve and Patty, because I know they'd love to hear from you, especially if what they're saying speaks to your situation and you want to have a conversation about your relationship and, the state of it and where you're at, and maybe how they can help you really rediscover some of that initial excitement, that energy. I really get what they mean by that. Myself, my wife and I, we just celebrated 11 years being married. We've been together longer than that. So, it's true. I mean, you're in a relationship for a long time, and it's like, wow, those early days of, we first met each other and the excitement, and you're feeling things out and the dating, and then you start to make more plans. And, in our case, we were very fortunate. We were able to do lots of traveling, and we traveled the world and really had some great adventures together. I mean, that was all 12, 15 years ago kind of thing. We traveled a bit since, and obviously our lives evolved to a different place here with our kids and our home and, that stage of life. So, yeah, I think, again, if there's any takeaway from our conversation, it's being intentional with your time, being present in the moment, communicating again. All these are very important things. So Patty and Steve, they're there to help you with that, and really do reach out. They're wonderful to talk to, as you can tell, even just to introduce yourself and say hello. So I hope the Multipod can help facilitate those connections. And I wish everyone watching all the best with your relationships, and all the best for the rest of the summer. We got lots more coming up here. I know there'll be some people listening that I've chatted a bit with, to come on the show. So we're going to get some recording dates lined up in the near future. And I think as we get into the fall, we'll kind of see how the schedule goes. If I can handle it, we might start adding some more episodes. There's so many people to talk to, and I really want to build up some more of these resources to make it as easy as possible for people to connect and find each other. So yeah, the future is bright here for the Multipod and for our community, our extended community. And thanks very much for being here. I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you're enjoying the show. We'll see you next time. Thanks to my guests today for sharing their story and what they're up to. You can find all the links and resources that we talked about in the description for this episode. Really don't hesitate to reach out and make that contact. Now you know that they exist, they need to know that you're out there too. A simple email or message can suffice. Or send a more substantial message if there's something that really jumped out for you. The Multipod has a new website, themultipod.com. Here you'll find the archives of the podcast in its previous form, all 111 episodes, a number of bonus episodes, and our Everything Conference mini-series, as well as the new episodes and the resources therein as they are released. Over time, we'll build it out for the best searchability and referencing possible so you can easily find who you're looking for. But a nice spreadsheet will suffice for now. The website also has a new guest application form. Let us know what topic or topics you would like to connect with people about, and we will set up a recording. As a guest, this is your primary task. Come prepared. Like all podcasts, the Multipod will thrive thanks to sharing, reviews, subscribing and commenting if you're on YouTube, and just generally getting the word out to multipotentialites that this resource exists. So help us spread our reach and create more opportunities and exposure for everyone. You can reach me at themultipodcast@gmail.com. That's themultipodcast@gmail.com. Or again, the website is simply themultipod.com. New episodes will be out on the 1st and 15th of every month. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today, and we'll see you again soon.